Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome in right now here to the live coverage tracking Hurricane Melissa, Category 4 hurricane right now, major hurricane approaching Jamaica. We are going to be going over this currently here. This is going to be a little bit of a long live stream where you're going to be talking about here obviously the rainfall threat and the landslide threat that is expected for Jamaica here. So I do want to say, make sure if you do have any questions or anything like that, make sure to leave it down in the chat below. I will be answering them as much as possible. But welcome into the stream, guys. Welcome in. I am Caden, and we are right now tracking Hurricane Melissa right now. We also do have a severe weather threat we'll touch on just a tad bit there in the Florida Panhandle, but not too much going on right now. So let's get into this really quickly here. Let's kind of see what we're looking at right now. Kind of getting everything still set up here. All right, so let's take a look right now. Obviously, what's kind of going on around the United States. Let's kind of jump with that a little bit first. What we kind of can see right now, we could obviously see that we have a lot of rainfall kind of continuing on here in the central part here of the United States, kind of paying attention to that a little bit there. You could see St. Louis, you guys are getting some pretty nice rainfall right now here. So a little bit of a rainy afternoon here heading into the evening. We're seeing a little bit of that rainfall kind of continuing on, especially here in the south and heading into the Ohio Valley. We're kind of seeing that. That does include St. Louis, so a couple cities. Atlanta just went through a pretty big rainfall threat there, or not threat, but some pretty big rainfall that just went through there. Also looking at Florida, very wet right now currently going on at that time. But let's take a look at Hurricane Melissa, man. We are paying attention to Hurricane Melissa here. And obviously, it is a very powerful hurricane, and you can already starting to see it is going to start approaching and making that north turn here fairly soon. We're going to be expecting that northern turn here, so we're going to be expecting that here probably in the next day. We might be seeing it, or maybe in the next couple of hours we will definitely be seeing when it kind of makes its way up to the north here. Still looks like it's moving due west, that we could see on the satellite picture, so we're still seeing the system go off to the west, so not too much is, no northern pull has happened yet. Look at the thunderstorms that's really happening on the outside here of the storm. Let me change the color here of this, but look at the thunderstorms that's kind of happening on the outside here of the storm specifically. We're seeing a lot of those bubbling up thunderstorms with those outer bands. And once again, we are still seeing some pretty big heavy rainfall that is still continuing on right now here in the western part of Haiti. And obviously, we know if we take a look at what the National Hurricane Center was saying with that, we can obviously see right here, isolated up to 16 plus inches of rain. That's over 1.5 feet of rain right there in the western part of Haiti, possibly up to 40 inches of rain here in parts of eastern Jamaica. That is a very, very big concern, obviously, especially with all the mountains. We're going to be seeing a lot of landslides in that general area. So we want to keep an eye on that, especially if you live in Jamaica right now. We do have a live stream currently happening right here in Jamaica. This is by The Independent here on YouTube. We're continuing to kind of pay attention to this. We can already see on kind of what's happening here. It doesn't look too windy, doesn't look too strong or anything like that. We're kind of just paying attention kind of just to some calm weather right now. But if we go look here at the weather radar here of what we have access of, at least, we're starting to see some of that rainfall kind of starting to come ashore here. Let's see what just happened to the radar here. Let's see. We're starting to see some of that rainfall really starting to approach here the coast, something we're going to be continuing to pay attention to over here for the next couple of hours. We're continuing to, kind of just watch that closely here. Let's see. I had the radar pulled up here. Let's see. Guess we're not seeing the radar anymore. Well, we'll take a look at the precipitation. But taking a look at this, you can see heavy rain already starting to approach the coast here, heading in to around Kingston area right here. We're seeing a lot of that rainfall kind of heading into the eastern part here. Due to that, it's because we are seeing that kind of outer bands obviously starting to move in here. If we take a look at the winds, what are we currently looking at here with the winds? Well, as of right now, with the European model kind of picking up on it right now, we're obviously seeing winds that are probably going to be around the 45-mile-an-hour wind gust mark. So we're still seeing that very closely there, continuing to pay attention to that. A little bit hard to kind of see the radar there. Taking a look right now here at Hurricane Melissa's forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. This is the 5 p.m. advisory here. The next one's going to be at 8 p.m., but the new cone update will be here at 11. I do want to point out something really quickly, and that we haven't really brought up yet, is that Bermuda is directly in the path here of Hurricane Melissa. So no matter what, I mean, if the storm goes up more to the northern part of the cone here, Bermuda won't see as many impacts, but even, going to the southern part here, we're expecting some impacts here in Bermuda. Right now, we do have hurricane warnings that were just issued today here, earlier today, for eastern parts of Cuba, as we are expecting in the next 48 hours hurricane conditions to start approaching the eastern part of Cuba there. So we're going to continue to kind of pay attention to that a little bit right there. Hurricane watch is still in effect here for parts of western Haiti, but no hurricane conditions are expected at this time. Really, we're going to kind of just hang out and see what's kind of going on here. And let's take a look here at what the winds are saying here according to the National Hurricane Center. We can already see Jamaica still getting some, obviously those tropical storm force winds are going to hang around for hours because the storm is moving very slowly here as it continues to move off to the west. I want to bring up, once this storm makes its way over here to the north, we are going to be seeing those hurricane force start to really ramp up. But I would say probably here for the next day, we're going to be just seeing some tropical storm force winds kind of continuing on. Now, if we head into the next couple days, we're going to see it obviously kind of continue move off to the north here, which will bring more impacts here into parts of Cuba, and that will bring some hurricane conditions in there. The one thing I do want to say, if you do live in eastern Cuba, we need to keep an eye on this very, very closely. And the reason why is because we are expecting the possibility here of some rapid intensification between Cuba and Jamaica, as some of the models have really been kind of hitting on that very well on that system right there. And let's actually jump on to the models really quick, because I know the GFS has just come out here, the 18Z model run. So let's kind of take a look at what we're looking at. So the GFS that we're kind of paying attention to, let's see if we can get a little bit of a closer view. Let's see here, GFS, Melissa, there we go. So taking a look at Melissa, obviously going to intensify more here. The GFS expecting 946 millibars here of a hurricane making that landfall here in Jamaica. We're going to see that kind of continue on. And then we see a little bit, obviously it's going over that mountain terrain, so we're going to be seeing obviously some weakening with the storm as it moves off to the north through Jamaica. And then it starts to head into Cuba there, that we could see as it gets into this water right here. Obviously it's very favorable, even though it's in, barely any water here stretching from Jamaica into Cuba. It has that opportunity to start to strengthen once again before hitting Cuba, and then we'll race off to the northeast. And the GFS model does keep it east of Bermuda, but still can't rule out any impacts there on Bermuda. So we're going to keep an eye on that. The European model, see what they are, what the Melissa, there we go. Bringing up Jamaica as a little bit weaker of a system here, more on the western part here of Jamaica, and kind of strengthens slightly going into Cuba, but really the European hasn't been the best so far on this intensity on this storm right now. So right now, continuing to kind of pay attention to, obviously, Jamaica. This is our main focus right now in this stream here. We could clearly see that this is what we're looking at here. Nothing too major is happening right now here in Jamaica that we could clearly see. So we're continuing to kind of pay attention to that a little bit right now. Let's head back over here to Windy and see kind of what we're looking at here, or see if we can figure out to get that radar pulled up again here. Had a little bit of a radar. We don't really have access to their radar site, so it's a little bit harder. There we go. So right now, what are we currently looking at here? Well, we could clearly see here having a little bit of issues, but the latest of the radar here, we could clearly see, obviously, we're seeing those rain bands going to eventually make their way in here, and that's going to impact parts of Kingston, and that's going to just really start to make their way, especially as the storm moves off to the west. Expected to make that northern turn here pretty soon. We're going to continue to see that rainfall, and that's obviously why we are expecting heavy rainfall from some of these storms, I mean, from this hurricane here, we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Obviously, you know, where we're expecting the eye to kind of head in is just going to be west of Alligator Pond here of Jamaica. We're going to kind of continue to pay attention to this area right here. Obviously, it's going to be going over mountain terrain. I would say the worst part, obviously, is going to be on the right side. I mean, that's just how hurricanes are. So really, if you live in this zone, we could be paying attention to some hurricane force wind gust as once the storm makes its way northward into the island here. We're going to continue to pay attention to that closely. With that, but taking a look here at the spaghetti models, very confident on where it's going to go. We do have some that are continuing to push off to the west here and heading more into central western Cuba there, and then we're continuing to just kind of have a little bit more spread as it races off to the northeast there. So stuff to kind of continue to pay attention to right now. Obviously, hurricane warning still in effect for Jamaica, as well as paying attention to hurricane warnings that are in effect for eastern Cuba, as well as tropical storm warnings there heading into the central part of Cuba. So we're going to continue to kind of pay attention to that very, very closely there. I do want to say that we do have a aircraft that is actually out there right now here in the storm. We have an aircraft out there. There is the eye of the hurricane right there. You could see that the NOAA plane has pushed off just through the eye not too long ago, and we're going to kind of see they've picked up pretty strong winds kind of obviously near the eye, so the eye wall that they've kind of flew through. We haven't been seeing too much. This is going to take a couple hours for us to get these little updates in. That will probably give us a little bit more of an update here on the 11 p.m. advisory to see if we see a little bit more strengthening currently going on with Hurricane Melissa right now. So we're continuing to pay attention to that. Obviously, a very defined eye continuing on right now off to the west. I would definitely say we're going to continue to see that westward motion continue. And, you know, eventually, I mean, we're expecting that northern turn. So it just, you know, the big question is when is that northern turn and who could get impact the most? And that's kind of what we're paying attention to right now. A very, very strong storm continues on and will be making its way into Jamaica here probably in the next couple of days, probably in the next 1 to 2 days, we're going to be seeing that. But you can obviously see we are seeing some pretty big rainfall still continuing on in the Haiti area right there, as well as continuing to pay attention to some of these bigger bands starting to kind of wrap into Jamaica there and bringing, you know, some big flash flooding potential that will really start to impact some areas right there. Taking a look once again here at the live feed here of Jamaica right now, we're currently kind of paying attention to not much going on. There's a little bit of a breeze that I can see here on this live video here. There's a little bit of a breeze, but not too much going on, and it's kind of fairly dry right now here. I don't exactly know West Parade, Jamaica, I guess. So I don't know exactly where that is located, but it doesn't seem like there's a little bit, there hasn't been too much rain. We definitely see that the road is wet, so there has been some rain, but right now not seeing too much rain with that. And obviously with this is not the latest radar. Yeah, so the radar here on Zoom Earth updated about an hour ago. So we're kind of going to see, obviously, these strong rain bands are going to come in. Once again, that's going to bring some gusty winds in these little areas right here and kind of more of the stronger rain. You know, that's where we're going to start seeing a little bit more of those stronger winds kind of move ashore here. Obviously, the worst of it is offshore and is, you know, well far offshore there. So we're not too concerned about that. Obviously, we are wanting to continue to pay attention here to a northern you know, these northern bands are going to make their way in here. That's going to impact Kingston, Moreton Bay, Port Antonio. You guys are going to be getting impacted by some of these rain bands here. So let's keep an eye on that closely there. And as we see the heavy rainfall, there we go. As we see the rainfall continue on, this is a precipitation map right here that we could clearly see. All of this yellow is going to be heavy rain that will be moving into Jamaica, and obviously we know that this is going to be our major problem for this storm here. We could see possibly up to 40 inches of rain here in parts of Jamaica there, and the most eastern part here of Jamaica, we are expecting over 40 inches of rain. That is, you know, an absurd amount there, especially on the mountain terrain where we're going to be having landslides. But I mean, even in the western part of Haiti, even if you're in the orange, 8 to 12 inches of rain is still a lot, but majority of Jamaica possibly getting over 2 feet of rain, possibly 3 feet in certain areas there. So we want to keep an eye on that very closely there. And make sure if you guys do have any questions, make sure to leave it down in the chat below as well. We're continuing to pay attention to the recon that continues on here right now. Haven't gotten an update yet, but not too long ago we saw it fly through the eye of the hurricane there. We're kind of paying attention to that. Did pick up obviously some pretty big winds near the eye, so including the eye walls here. We're kind of seeing that. If you take a look here at the satellite, looking very impressive as it continues on. We're seeing a little bit, really just a full-on westward motion, nothing else there. Seeing that westward motion kind of complete, that will eventually make its way up here to the north and head into Jamaica. So we're going to continue to kind of pay attention to this very, very closely here over the next couple of days here. We're going to kind of see this storm really start to kind of pick up here. I want to touch on the severe weather threat that's kind of continuing on at this time right now. Let's kind of pay attention to that as well. For the severe weather threat, we'll get back to Hurricane Melissa here in a second. But here's from the Storm Prediction Center, slight severe weather risk continuing on here for majority of parts of the Mississippi, Alabama coast there, as well as heading into the Florida Panhandle, stretching marginal into Alabama and Mississippi as well. We did have a severe weather threat kind of happen in the Louisiana area with a tornado watch and a couple tornado warnings that actually did show up there, and a couple water spouts were off land there. So there is still that tornado possibility here of 5%, mostly in the Florida Panhandle, so we want to keep an eye on that closely. There. And I think if we head back here, so we're not seeing any major storms kind of continuing on right here. Do I have my weather alerts on? I do indeed. Yeah, so we have flash flood warnings actually continuing on over here in Florida as we're having a lot of rainfall, I guess, kind of just hanging out here in the state of Florida, the Sunshine State there. So kind of seeing a little bit of that. We're seeing some rainfall kind of really just being heavy at times here in Florida. You can see in Central Florida there. There's a flash flood warning in that area right there. So we're going to continue to pay attention to that closely as well. I don't know why it's getting rid of all the cities, but okay. I believe that's north of Orlando here, and this is going to be on the east coast here of Florida, that flash flood warning. All right, let's touch on Jamaica once again here. So let's actually go back here. So we're going to go into tropical weather, Hurricane Melissa, forecast cone, and the track. So currently looking at right now, Hurricane Melissa, we're continuing to pay attention to Hurricane Melissa. Right now, you could clearly see 5 p.m. advisory, but 145 mile an hour winds, 175, maximum gust that has been seen with this storm here. That's just an absolute absurd amount there, and also bringing in that rainfall, moving west at 5, so it has picked up its speed a little bit, not moving too quickly still, but 941 millibars. Big question is expected to drop still? Is it going to? Well, we are expecting it to drop because as you can see, we are expecting a Category 5 hurricane here once it just gets south of Jamaica, and possibly will make that landfall as a Category 5 in Jamaica here. So we want to continue to pay attention to that. 160 mile an hour winds are expected here, especially near the coast here of Jamaica. We're going to continue to pay attention to that. So a lot to pay attention to here that we are really continuing to kind of pay attention to right now. So taking a look here at what we were looking at with this earlier today, radar is not very cooperative right now, hasn't really updated, but a little bit of what we can look at here. Well, we can clearly see outer bands continue to move into Jamaica right now. We're going to be seeing these outer bands kind of continuing on. That's going to bring some of that heaviest amount of rainfall here into the eastern part of Jamaica first before getting anywhere else. We're going to continue to pay attention to that closely right now. Taking a look once again here at the live look of Jamaica right now, a little bit breezy. You kind of can see the trees moving around a little bit. You can see that a little bit. So stuff continuing on right now. Obviously, we're seeing the winds kind of starting to pick up here. You can even see it on the camera. We're starting to see that. And those are going to be coming in once again with those rain bands that we were just looking at there. We're going to see those rain bands starting to come in. And those winds that are really, packing a punch are going to sit in these rain bands right here on the right side or the northeastern quadrant of the storm. As that makes its way inland, we are going to be seeing those winds kind of start picking up. And that's going to be those tropical storm force winds that we're kind of seeing right there. So a lot to be kind of paying attention to here. We don't really have, we do actually have a, I don't think it has been updated 4 hours ago, but obviously we're seeing weather is going to be changing here and then for the next couple of days. And as the storm gets closer to Jamaica, we're going to see a little bit more of, more consistency here of the rainfall. But right now it's kind of just all mostly offshore. The winds are starting to pick up in some areas right now. We're going to be continuing to pay attention to that here as we head into 8 p.m. We're going to be seeing some of those winds starting to pick up. You kind of can take a look here. Golden Grove. We are looking at the winds right now of 33 miles an hour sustained winds. That's going to continue on right here. In Kingston, fairly quiet, 26 mile an hour winds continuing on right now in Kingston as well. So once again, we're not seeing too much of the strongest of winds are mostly offshore. But once again, with those rain bands, we're going to see some of that wind start to pick up. And I do want to bring up really quickly here, even on the beaches here, we are going to be seeing some of that storm surge really starting to ramp up as well here on the eastern coast here of Jamaica. So we're going to continue to pay attention to that if you live in Golden Grove all the way down into Moreton Bay. So we're continuing to pay attention to that right now. Here's another live look here at Jamaica. We've really been continuing to pay attention to this a little bit here, so we're continuing to watch that closely. We can see that if you look on your left side here of the screen, the trees are starting to really get a breeze in, but no major rainfall is happening right now with this. Yeah, which I would say is, good news there. All right, so we haven't gotten an update yet. We're still waiting for the NOAA plane to give us an update here. We could see they did pass through the eye not too long ago, so we're going to kind of, they're going to take some data here. The National Hurricane Center is going to take some data here from that eye wall here that we've kind of been looking at here. You can see the winds obviously are above major hurricane force there, as we have a well-defined storm right in this general area right here that we are currently looking at here on satellite. Continues to move off to the west here. I wouldn't say it might be picking up speed. It might just it might be picking up speed a little bit as it moves off to the west, but once it gets ready to make that northern turn, we're going to be seeing a little bit obviously less of the major winds or it's going to move slower. That's what I'm trying to say. It's going to move a little bit slower there. And I mean, obviously, Jamaica expecting a Category 5 landfall. Usually, hurricanes completely miss Jamaica, or at least go down to the south here. And I've seen some stuff like that. But now we're seeing a storm kind of get pulled up into Jamaica here as a Category 5. I mean, the strongest that a hurricane can get is going to make landfall here in Jamaica. So we want to keep an eye on that very, very closely here. And then if we also talk about Cuba a little bit, Category 3 is expected to make landfall here in Cuba. So once again, it all depends what happens in this general zone right here. Do we see a little bit more of, kind of favorability here, where we do see a storm that kind of shoots up a little bit and actually, starts to ramp up in intensity a little bit? That could be a possibility here once it gets into this zone right here, but obviously there's a lot to kind of pay attention to. Expected to go by Bermuda here at, just by as a Category 1 here, 90 miles an hour for that, and then we'll eventually make it all the way over here to 80 miles an hour. So I mean, Bermuda, you guys are pretty close to a direct hit there. If this track is going to be correct here and we don't see any shifts to it, you guys will get that, eye wall of the hurricane. But obviously right now it's just, expected to be a Category 1. So it won't be as bad of what Jamaica is seeing. So we're once again taking a look here at Hurricane Melissa, Major Hurricane Melissa right now, as it is going to be approaching here Jamaica here in the next couple of days. We're seeing the storm. It's going to eventually get pulled off here to the north. We're going to be seeing that here pretty soon. Satellite is looking very impressive right now at this time. Obviously with this, system, we're continuing to kind of pay attention to it right now. So we're going to continue to watch this storm very, very closely here, as we are expecting the possibility here of a Category 5 as we head into the overnight hours. We could be expecting the possibility for a Category 5. So we're going to kind of continue to pay attention to that right now, currently, because this is getting pretty scary here at times, especially if you do live in Jamaica. We're going to be continuing to pay attention to that a little bit. Recon picking up on some higher winds that are continuing on right now here in near the eye wall. They will eventually make another pass through the eye wall here in the hurricane. We're going to kind of continue to pay attention to that here. But right now we're not seeing too much kind of going on at this time. But obviously rainfall is a big threat that's going to be continuing on here. Winds are expected to start to move on to shore here in the next couple of maybe hours, with those outer bands starting to make their way inland here. We're going to see those winds start to kind of pick up in certain areas. Now obviously we're not expecting major winds yet until the storm starts to get pulled up to the north here and obviously makes its way into Jamaica. That's when we'll see obviously our worst of the winds here. That's when we'll see the hurricane force winds and all of that. And I do want to say, if you guys know anyone that lives in Jamaica, please tell them to be prepared for this storm. We don't have much time to prepare for this storm right now. So we want to continue to kind of keep an eye on this right now, this system. As this continues to move its way up, it's going to get pulled to the north here eventually. Right now, we're going to kind of pay attention to that. You can see the wind is starting to pick up here a little bit more right now as Hurricane Melissa is expected. You can see Hurricane Melissa is already kind of just making a little bit of a mess here on the road there in Jamaica right now. So we're going to be expecting that to obviously, as we go farther and farther here in, the weather conditions are going to deteriorate here as we head into the next couple of hours currently right now. So we're going to continue to pay attention to that. Obviously, we've been continuing to pay attention to this currently here. The radar is not clearly updating at this time, but I will say probably by now we're starting to get a little bit these kind of hanging offshore here, and that's where we're going to be seeing those tropical storm force winds. The rainfall is definitely going to be a big impact that we're obviously seeing here. Possibly up to 40 inches of rain here in that dark purple spot right there. Even in the pink area right here for Jamaica, 20 to 30 inches of rain. A very excessive amount. And obviously we have that mountain terrain, so landslides are going to be a big possibility. Even in western Haiti, we're seeing a lot of that rainfall that's going to continue. Obviously not as bad as Jamaica, but still, over a foot of rain, foot and a half of rain could be expected. And obviously these rainfall totals are going to be higher in isolated areas here. We're going to be seeing higher rainfall totals that will really bring some big issues there. So taking a look once again here at the... there we go. Taking a look right now once again here at what we're looking at here with the tropical storm force winds. Obviously these winds are starting to move inland here into Jamaica. That's going to be happening here for the next a couple days until the storm really passes and heads into Cuba. That's when we'll see the calm down here with the winds. So we know that the storm's not moving very quickly right now here as of the 5 p.m. advisory, as the 8 p.m. advisory actually should be coming in right now. So let's actually look up the National Hurricane Center here as we have the 8 p.m. advisory advisory. So still, once again, is moving west at 5. The pressure definitely dropped, so that is something to kind of pay attention to here with the 8 p.m. advisory that has now just come out. Life-threatening and catastrophic flash flooding and landslides expected in portions of Jamaica and southern Hispaniola through the midweek, with hurricane force winds likely to begin tomorrow. So we are expecting hurricane force winds to start to begin tomorrow there. Pressure has dropped a pretty decent amount, so that could be an indicator of a very strong system that we could be seeing here at 11 p.m. advisory. Could we see a category 5? We don't know if it's, rapidly intensifying already up to a category 5 right now. It definitely is a very, very powerful looking storm, but we obviously have a lot to kind of pay attention to when it comes to this. So eventually the storm will eventually get pulled off to the north, and will possibly, the big question is where does the storm get pulled to the north? If it continues moving on its westward track a little bit more here and kind of gets pulled more to the west, we're going to be seeing a little bit more impacts here on the western part of Jamaica. But if we see it obviously get pulled to the north quicker, it's going to impact even, more of central Jamaica, because obviously wherever you are, the closer you are to the eye, the stronger the winds are going to be. And you really could see that, the eye wall, the eastern eye wall, is very, very strong at this time. Look at all of that convection that we're seeing kind of near that the storm right now. See if we can take a little bit of a look at that storm, as obviously the sun has set, but very, very strong storm continuing on, very big hurricane that we're kind of seeing here in the Caribbean. Obviously this is one of the first hurricanes to go through the Caribbean this season, is going to get pulled off to the north here eventually and make their way in to Jamaica and Cuba, obviously. So let's jump back here into the severe weather threat for today, heading into tonight really quickly here. Slight weather risk continuing on over here for the Florida Panhandle, heading into Alabama and Mississippi's border right here for their coast, but heading into the Florida Panhandle is that slight weather risk there. Today we do have the possibility here of a 5% tornado risk continuing on right here in the Florida Panhandle. We're going to be expecting that, so that's something to continue to pay attention to a little bit there, as we've had a couple tornado warnings already kind of happen today in Louisiana. We're going to kind of want to pay attention to that a little bit as well today. Taking a look here, 2% on the outside of that. The wind threat is 5%, so still there's a little bit of gusty winds that could be expected there. Obviously we take a look here at this. This is the future radar here, kind of in a little bit of a loop. We're kind of paying attention to that. Obviously some storms, scattered showers, thunderstorms continuing all over the Florida Peninsula there, and we're going to be seeing some of those storms kind of heading more off to the east. And obviously we see a lot of rainfall that's kind of just hanging out over here in the eastern part here of the United States, as well as the central part. That's going to move into Kentucky, Tennessee, and North Carolina. That's when we're really going to see where the heaviest of rainfall is going to kind of hang out there. Mostly, yeah, flash flood warnings are continuing on over here in the state of Florida. That's kind of what we're paying attention to at this time. We can see a couple flash flood warnings continuing on over here on the East Coast here, observed, and considerable threat here for that. We're going to kind of see why we're not seeing the cities here. A little interesting, I would say. Oh, there we go. So only when I open up the radar thing it shows the cities, but we know Orlando's going to be right here. Flash flood warnings are continuing on just over here off the Space Coast here. We're seeing that considerable threat here as probably some pretty heavy amounts of rainfall. Let's see what they're saying. 2 to 3 inches are possible in the warned area. 7 to 10 inches have already fallen, so definitely make sure that you guys are, making sure, turn around, don't drown, don't drive through these flooded waters. Don't drive through flooded waters. So once again, taking a look here at Hurricane Melissa. We're currently looking at Hurricane Melissa there. Here's a little bit of a look here of Jamaica. We're kind of continuing to see right now Jamaica continuing on right now. So we're going to kind of pay attention to... get this to load up here. I'm trying to see if we could... Oh, okay. So taking a look right now here currently at Jamaica, this is a little bit of a look here. We could kind of see that there is debris, not, major debris or anything, but some trash kind of just hanging out on the road here. I would be, trash cans have been tipped over that I've kind of been seeing here with Hurricane Melissa. We're kind of paying attention to some trash cans that have been tipped over and all of that. So we're kind of watching that a little bit there. The winds have kind of been steady in that general area here, and that's kind of what we're kind of, just been paying attention to here. Over the last couple of minutes here in the last hour, we've been seeing that, but some strong winds continuing to move in here, heading inland right now. This is going to impact Kingston and kind of the central coast here. We're going to be expecting that. And I do want to say that the storm surge is also going to be heading inwards as well. With these storms as well. So taking a look here right now back at the weather radar, not the most updated version here of the radar, but we're obviously, if we kind of take 5:20 p.m. here and we kind of talk about it now, what are we expecting that's probably happening right now? Well, we know that there's probably some storms that have already made their way inland here, and that's the big thing is these little rain bands that kind of hang out here. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a closer look. But these little rain bands that, eventually make their way in here, those are winds that are going to be tropical storm force. That's usually what is going to bring. We don't have any tropical storm force winds that are in the western part of Haiti. Really, the biggest threat right now is just heavy rainfall that is in the western part of Haiti. But I want to bring up really quickly here that obviously the majority of the storm and the worst of it is staying offshore right now until that storm eventually turns off to the north here and then really goes and makes an impact here on Jamaica. We are seeing not much going on right now. Obviously, gusty winds and storms and rainfall is going to be a big concern, and water spouts also offshore. We're going to be paying attention to that very, very closely as well. Let's see if we've gotten any update here in. Yeah, so let's take a look right now. 937 millibars. The National Hurricane Center put it at 933. But there you go. So they're getting a little bit more information here from the NOAA aircraft there that we're kind of paying attention to. So we're looking at it right now. They went through the eye here, and we're kind of paying attention to it here. Very strong eye wall that we're kind of been seeing over here. Obviously, major hurricane force winds that we're continuing to kind of pay attention to. Just right now, we're continuing to kind of pay attention to that here. So if you are, continuing to pay attention to this, our next advisory is going to be at 11 p.m. here. So we're going to continue to pay attention to that. 11 p.m. will be the next advisory coming in from the National Hurricane Center. And I will say that they're going to be taking a lot of what they are looking at with this NOAA aircraft. They're going to be taking it a little bit more information in for the 11 p.m. advisory than obviously the latest advisory that we just had. Yeah, so we know that over here, we have those winds that are continuing right now. And I guess it's not wanting to pull up again. But that's all right. So we're taking a look, obviously, at the wind history. Hurricane force winds starting to extend a little bit more right now that we're seeing. It's starting to get a little bit more wider there. That would impact Jamaica a little bit more. More people could get impacted if it stays like that. And that also could pose, certain areas of threat here in eastern Cuba. Could pay attention to that as well. So right now, also, let's just take a look here back at the Jamaica live coverage camera here. Well, we're currently seeing, obviously, a little bit of, breeze still kind of continuing on. Not too much going on right now, but you kind of can see here, over here in the corner of the video, we could see that there is a little bit of a breeze that is kind of continuing on right now. So this is going to be something that we're really going to see, and I will say in the next day, we're probably going to be seeing this camera really start to, show the gusty winds and the large rainfall that is going to be happening. And we'll really want to keep an eye on this because, obviously we are expecting over, 3 feet of rain in certain areas right in this area, where could we be seeing, is this going to pile up right here? Is this an area where we could be seeing some rainfall that kind of just piles up and isn't able to go anywhere to escape? So we'll have to keep an eye on that closely as we head into tomorrow, because I definitely think as we head into tomorrow, we'll be obviously seeing that northern turn getting ready to start happening, and it will slow down to stall out, and that's when we're going to start seeing, these bigger bands kind of heading inshore here. And I mean, you can even see right here that we probably have a little bit of a wobble that's kind of happening, and we're kind of seeing some of that major, major winds and strong, rainfall that's kind of happening is kind of just offshore and is getting closer and closer. So we're continuing to pay attention to that very, very closely as we head into the next couple of hours. We're going to kind of continue to pay attention to that. Once we start seeing these kind of make their way in, we're going to be seeing some more storm surge that will also be coming in, because we haven't been talking about that very much here. Usually we don't talk about storm surge that happens in these islands, mostly only in the United States. But I do want to point out that there obviously is going to be some pretty big storm surge. Obviously, as the storm kind of starts to approach here and the outer bands start to approach, it's going to push some water as well. And look at these thunderstorms on the eastern side here of the eastern quadrant starting to blow up here this evening that we're kind of watching closely. Those are kind of just hanging out to sea, so not any impacts for anyone there, so that's some good news. But it definitely could see that there's just thunderstorms kind of forming on the outside here of our hurricane. So right now, obviously, still continuing to pay attention to those rain bands that are expected to continue to move inland here. So that's something we're going to continue to kind of pay attention to. Kingston, right now, you guys are expected to get some heavy rainfall at some times here. The heaviest amount of rainfall probably staying a little bit more offshore at this time, but we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that rainfall kind of head inland, and will be a little bit more, obviously, of, a big rainfall threat in that area. So we're going to continue to pay attention to this storm very closely. Obviously, as we head into the next couple of hours, we're going to be paying attention to this very closely. And remember, if you do have any questions, make sure to leave it down in the chat below. Seeing if there's any other videos that have come in yet. So continuing once again to, really just watch these, storms starting to move in. All at this point now, it's just a waiting game to see kind of what happens with, Hurricane Melissa. When do we see some of these storms kind of start to approach and get worse? Well, we're going to keep an eye on that very closely. That is for sure. So right now, continuing to pay attention. Next National Hurricane Center advisory will be at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be a full advisory package that we're going to be seeing here. We're going to be paying attention to that. We're going to get a brand new forecast cone and all of that out. Rainfall threat is definitely a big concern here. We could obviously see isolated rainfall also is going to be locally higher in different areas here. What the NOAA here and the National Weather Service expecting Jamaica, over 40 inches of rain is possible here in the eastern part here of Jamaica, as well as paying attention to isolated rainfall continuing on over here in western Haiti, bringing up to 1.5 feet of rain. So there's a little bit of a look here of Jamaica. You could see the wind kind of picking up a little bit there. We're seeing that breeze obviously continuing on. We can see the breeze is continuing on. As we know, we need to make sure that people are prepared for Hurricane Melissa at this time. No damage has been reported or anything like that, which is good news. But obviously we want to continue to kind of pay attention to the threat here as we head into the next couple of hours. So big questions are still on the table for when the worst of it will approach here. That is when we are expecting, I believe the National Hurricane Center did say tomorrow we are expecting hurricane force winds to emerge into parts of Jamaica here, in southern Jamaica. So we're continuing to pay attention to that on when the hurricane force winds will start to head more inland. I would say majority of the heaviest of rain is kind of staying offshore right now. Yeah, we're going to be seeing majority of this rainfall kind of heading inland here, and that's going to bring those tropical storm conditions. And once again, you know, with the tropical storm conditions, that's kind of what we're seeing at this time. You take a look at the warnings and surface winds right now, and this is actually the brand new updated one here because this is the 8 p.m. advisory here. You can see more of the tropical storm force winds. Almost all of Jamaica right now is dealing with those tropical storm conditions. The only part that's not is probably going to be western part of Jamaica. Now that will change obviously by the 11 p.m. advisory. So once again, once those outer bands kind of make their way in here, that's when we're going to be seeing those tropical storm conditions start up in that general area. So we're going to kind of continue to pay attention to that. Once again, we are expecting that northern turn here. We're going to be continuing to watch for that as well. And really depends on when that northern turn happens, because that could impact different areas here of Jamaica and even in parts of Cuba. But as we head into, you know, we had the intermediate advisory there, expecting here, you know, tomorrow we could be expecting the storm just to start getting ready to get pulled off to the north here in the next 2 days. We could be seeing the storm get pulled off to the north and making that landfall there in Jamaica as a possibility of a major Category 5 hurricane. With the winds of 160 miles an hour with the possibility of max wind gust of 195 in the eye wall. Very, very big concern there for Jamaica, that is for sure. So right now, obviously, we're continuing to kind of pay attention to, you know, Hurricane Melissa as it's starting to approach. But if you're just tuning in here, the 8 p.m. advisory moving west at 5 miles an hour. Pressure is 933 millibars there with winds of 145 miles an hour. So it stayed the same as of the 5 p.m. advisory, but we're going to expect a little bit more of a different probably outcome here when it comes down to the 11 p.m. advisory here, because we've been getting updates here from the NOAA aircraft, and that's what the National Hurricane Center is really going to start taking into consideration here for their next advisory. 937 millibars when they pass through the eye wall here, or the eye. That's kind of what we're looking at there. We can see that around the eye, we're seeing some very, very, very strong winds right there that we're going to kind of continue to pay attention to. A little bit more less winds here on the eastern side of what we're kind of paying attention to with them passing through. But I want to bring up right now, they're probably going to be going upwards, and then they will fly back downwards here. So kind of give us a little bit more here on the left quadrant of the storm right now. Because it definitely does seem like that the winds are going to be stronger on the right side, but we're continuing to obviously just pay attention to both sides, because we can see that you have that little, you know, pink area that is over major hurricane force winds, and we obviously know that, you know, that, and that's why it's a big thing on where the storm makes landfall in Jamaica, because we know that in this general area, or in this general area right here, the closer you are to the eye, the more worse the winds are going to be. So that is just something we're going to kind of continue to pay attention to. So right now, I'm going to end the stream here for the night. We'll have a little bit of a longer stream. I believe probably going to try to squeeze one in tomorrow. We're going to do a live stream tomorrow there. Possibility here, obviously, that will be a longer stream as we're getting a little bit more impacts here on Hurricane Melissa, and Jamaica is expected to get some pretty big impacts according to the National Hurricane Center tomorrow. So we're going to kind of pay attention to that one a little bit closely there. But thank you guys so much for watching the stream. If you guys did tune in, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you guys did enjoy it as well. And also, if you do have any questions still about the weather anywhere around the United States or anything, just make sure to leave it down in the comments down below, and I will do my best to answer them. But make sure, if you do know anyone in Jamaica, please share it to them as well to make sure that they are staying safe. But thank you guys so much for watching today's stream, and I hope to see you guys in the next stream here on Hurricane Melissa.